enables you to dream. And when it's taken when you're actually conscious, that's where it can open up so many doors of potential awareness for you, and it can actually show you what you can actually discover and what actually is.
You've explained it very nicely. And also, I'll tell you one practical example of that. Because I've tried DMT myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Ah, what's it like?
Well, obviously it's a unique experience to everybody who has it, but there are certain experiences you go through that are common to the DMT experience. For me, it was certainly, it was literally enlightening. It was as if someone had just opened up the top of my head, and I've got this direct connection with the source of all that is, all that ever was, and all that ever will be. The energy and the love that was surging through me at those times was just like a medicine, really. It has superb medicinal qualities. But aside from that, one of the most interesting things was the way, and I've also had this with psilocybin, with magic mushrooms, was the sudden emergence of all the sacred geometry that we touched on earlier, there for me to see the intricacy of it all around us in every aspect. Because there's this sense that you break through into this other realm, and it's all kind of very precise, almost like some sort of grand spiritual machinery.
Yeah.
And you begin to understand that this is actually the law of the universe. This sacred geometry applies to the universe in terms of the measurements of the stars, of the electromagnetic spheres, and all the connections between all the various planetary bodies that are around us. And of course, that applies to us as well. We have all this inside us. In fact, is it inside us? I mean, we look out to the stars. Is that outside us, or is it within us? Whatever we're looking at, you see.
It is both, because one thing I learned from Neil deGrasse Tyson, he said that the very atoms and compounds that make up the cosmic bodies are also the same atoms and compounds that make up your body. So you are within the universe, and the universe is within you.
Yes, within is without, and without is within.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm saying. That quote from Gene Roddenberry does in fact give you that direct experience of that which you're perhaps exploring. Whatever you bring into your consciousness, it will give you the experience of it. And I would say that in my experience, it is certainly true that taking these entheogens, these psychedelics, can lead you to that realization. That's a beautiful thing. All these guys who you see at these, who are giving talks at various community places or at festivals around the summer, they're very lucid. And I think you'll find that people who tend to take entheogens are very lucid, so it seems to have a very, very positive effect on one's rhetorical capabilities.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean that's the thing. I mean, the general consensus around certain drugs, it's got this really, well, it's got a very bad rap, because the whole thing, even especially with psychedelics as well, the general consensus is that, oh no, these people, they just want to get high, but it's not about that. It's definitely
I'm not interested in. I've reached that point where I'm no longer interested in general consensus, or in fact attempting to achieve any consensus. Because if I'm in harmony, then that will be reflected in those around. Well, not always is that the case, but that will be largely reflected in what's going on around me. Again, we're back to that expression, resonance. It's all a vibe, man. It's literally all a vibe. The sacred syllable "om" is significant too. Because you can look at kymatics then and see how certain patterns, sacred geometrical patterns, begin to form when you apply the right frequency to dust or sand on the metallic surface. Have you seen this stuff? Have you seen Kymatica?
Yes, it's a very, very, very good documentary. Very good.
And it all fits together, you see. We go off at tangents as we have done this evening, but that's only natural in terms of the way our thought patterns are organising themselves in various connections.
Yeah, because I mean, one of the things that I say to people when I talk to people about automation of the life-wasting jobs that we're forced into in this current system, I say to them, well, if the conversation gets a little bit more in depth, I say that when it comes to mechanical tasks, then the machine brain, as it were, is more suited to those because it's just task orientated. It's just like, it's far more suited towards a logic engine, which a machine is. But our brains are not a logic engine. It's not mechanical. No matter how much of a regimented mechanical education we have, it does not change how our brains function on the fundamental level. Our brains are engines of association and memory.
Yes, but who is it that's in charge of that engine? If you want to use that analogy.
Yeah,
who is it that's controlling your thought patterns and your behaviours and your addictions and all of it,
And
what is behind it?
That's a very good question. It's one that we could probably spend hours and hours discussing because that's the thing. It's something like that is very, very hard to define because there's so many caveats to it. There's so
you see, what we're talking about here with the critical thinking is applying that aspect of our consciousness that is able to think critically and to apply in a very practical way to our lives, to not just watch the television news or a bulletin on some alternative media website, but to actually engage in it and to be questioning it, using new techniques that we outlined earlier in the trivia as a way of interpreting and checking the validity of that which is coming, the information that's coming in.
Yeah.
But I acknowledge what you're saying, but also I think it's a case of becoming aware of how your mind works and being able to actually use the mind, not let the mind use you. Because in meditation, I had a meditation teacher some years ago in Thailand, and he said meditation is effectively like, if your mind is a well-tamed monkey. You see another monkey reference again, another primate reference, but it works because it's a monkey mind, and if you don't actually get to master it, it will lead you off into all kinds of areas, which is of course where mental illnesses begin to. Because a lot of people with mental illnesses are simply they're not able to understand truly the nature of themselves or who they are.
Yeah,
we're not able to go beyond the ego.
Yeah, we're drawn away from the path of learning who we may be, and instead of being taught how to think, we're being taught what to think.
Yes.
And it goes back to what we were talking about last time about the school system. It doesn't necessarily teach you. I mean, I think I remember back when I was in school, I think there was a class called critical thinking, or it might have been in college, but we were never taught anything about the trivium. We were never taught anything about actual objective thinking. I think critical thinking in those classes was more about discussion and debate, and it was what to think, not how to think. And that's the thing. It was almost like we were being deceived into thinking, oh yeah, critical thinking, we're actually going to be taught we're going to be given like proper tools, but no, we were just given subjects. Yeah, and that is not how we learn.
In spite of all of the miseducation we have, we do get those moments of complete clarity. So it's only a case really of tapping into what is there and becoming aware of your various thought processes, being able to watch them and just let them go, which of course is largely the art of meditation.
Yeah.
To get to that state of no mind, state of just complete and utter acceptance, state of just being.
Yeah.
And it's all to do with this just zooming out a bit, not being caught up in the thoughts, not letting them lead you into areas that you don't really need to be going. Dwelling too long on something that's happened in the past and is now just distant memory until you revoke it. You know, you bring it back into you're bringing it back into play, and you're immediately casting yourself back into the past. Well, we know really that the name of the game is to be right here, right now.
Exactly, because that is the only element of time that we have immediate, well, dare I say, control over, because we can only affect the now.
Precisely.
We can't affect the past. The only thing we can do about the past is dwell on it and live in it, and that isn't really going to help us or anything at all, because it's just looking back at a past reflection, and it's not like you're going to change it. So,
well, people got all kinds of addictions, you see, and sometimes it's addictions that they have to states of consciousness. Unhappiness. People become addicted to unhappiness. We spoke earlier about people walking around with their heads down rather than looking around them, you know, at the surroundings, taking in the surroundings. And it's really, this whole thing is, the trivium is about expansiveness and simply opening your consciousness to higher realms of thought and understandings. And, you know, once you start off and you get a grasp of it, all these things just come about very naturally. Another one is the appeal to authority. This is something that we fallacy that's often used against us. And a favourite story of mine is when I was in court in June of 2010, and basically I'd gone in over one issue which had been dropped. All charges had been dropped. But the judge attempted to bring up the issue of some unpaid fines that I had, that my legal person had at that magistrate's court. Now, I'd not been prepared for this, and I hadn't taken anything with me. So I said to him in court, I said, look, what are you trying to do here? And it was quite funny, because we had a lot of people in the public gallery.
Yeah.
And the judge said to me, and I've heard this before, you know, if you don't, one of the suggestions is that if you don't get legal representation, you'll be swimming in some very deep waters. Now, that's a logical fallacy, because he doesn't know the first thing about my levels of consciousness and my levels of understanding about the law and what my intent is. But that's an appeal to authority, you know. Or the other one is, of course, well, look, this guy here, he's a scientist, so what he's presenting about global warming is bound to be true. Well, as we know, if you look into the ClimateGate scandal of East Anglia University, and all those emails that were released, we see how they've doctored the information to suit their agenda. Because, of course, these people, they have security of tenure, which is something I touched on earlier with regard to the Prussian education system. Because, of course, it doesn't just stop at 16 or 18. It continues right through into further education.
Exactly, yeah. Education is an ongoing process. We never stop learning. And that's the thing. I mean, one of the things I learned from Ben Stewart's documentaries is that our subconscious is actually wired so that every experience that we have is actually designed to imprint on us in some shape or form.
Absolutely. And that starts from being in the womb, man. And it starts from the moment of death. All these imprints.
Yeah.
Which is why, you know, people get addicted to unhappiness and they're just carrying it around. They've got to learn to drop it. But anyway, this judge, right, he said to me, I said, look, this is a clear denial of due process. I'm not prepared to have this discussion with you today. I think we should adjourn.
Yeah.
And I said to him, in fact, it's a breach of the 1368 Observance of Due Process of the Law Act.
Yeah.
And I read it out to him. And he said, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? There's no such act. There's no such act. What about the Michael Case Stupid Act? So at that point, you see, I knew I'd won, because he's lost it to the point where he's the judge and he's using the ad hominem. Or the appeal to ridicule.
Yeah.
As a way of trying to win the argument. He did actually get a lot of laughs for that. And I kind of had to smile when he said it, because I knew, you know, inside me that when someone is resorting to that, you've pretty much won the argument, particularly in a court of law. And who does he think he is? But of course, he was just using a rhetorical device against me. He was using the appeal to fear, which of course he's raising his voice, he's shouting at me, okay, the appeal to authority, the appeal to ridicule, and upon close